Hi, everybody. Today we're going to take a look at the presidential trends between 1988 and 2024. Last week we did the individual shifts. Today we're going to compare those states to the entire country to find out the trends. We've got all the data and a map coming up. I also want to quickly mention that I've finally finished setting up a Patreon page. There's not a whole lot there just yet, but if a bunch of people pour in, then more can be added. But for now, it's just a way to provide a little bit of extra support if you're a big fan of the channel. There should be a link down below somewhere. If you prefer, you could also still become a channel member through YouTube. Either way, any bit of support is always greatly appreciated. But for today, going from George H.W. Bush to Donald Trump, we're going to real quickly go through that background information one more time. In '88, Bush won in a landslide. He got 426 electoral votes and he carried 40 states. He got a majority of the popular vote with 53.4. Massachusetts Governor Michael Dukakis took the loss for the Dems. He finished with 111 electoral votes. He carried 10 states plus D.C. and he got 45.7% of the vote. Then again, 36 years later, Donald Trump wins a second term with 312 electoral votes. He carried 31 states plus Maine second. And his popular vote share was just under 50 at 49.8. Kamala Harris got 226 votes. She carried 19 states plus D.C. at Nebraska's second. And that was good enough for 48.3% of the vote. And that is going to take us into this pretty solid looking spreadsheet. On the left, we've got the states. Then we've got the 88 Dukakis vote. Then the 88 Bush vote. Then it's the 24 Harris vote. The 24 Trump vote. Then we've got the margins for 88 and 24 shaded according to who won. Then we've got the column from last week. These are the shifts. This is the difference between the two previous columns to show us which way the state moved. And the most important column for this video are the trends. It's going to be the difference between those individual swings and the swing of the entire country. And the two columns on the right are also shaded. 10 or more points are the darkest colors. The lightest ones are going to be under 5%. So hopefully all the data is correct, and hopefully you understand the difference between a swing and a trend. So to get those trends, we first got to get our baseline. That's going to be the national swing. In 1988, again, we've got Michael Dukakis at 45.7, George H.W. Bush at 53.4. Then all the way up to 2024, we've got Kamala Harris at 48.3, Donald Trump at 49.8. The popular vote margin in '88 was 7.7 in favor of Bush. In '24, it was 1.5 in favor of Trump. Both Republican wins, but Trump's was a lot lower. That means the entire country, in terms of popular vote, swung 6.2% away from the Republicans and toward the Dems. So that's what we're going to compare every other state to. Any swing higher than 6.2 is going to be a blue trend. Anything less than that is going to be red. So let's look at the first state. We've got Alabama. In 1988, Michael Dukakis got 39.9%. George H.W. Bush won the state with 59.2. In the last election, Kamala Harris went down to 34.1. Trump went up to 64.6. The margin in 1988 was 19.3 for Bush. In '24, it was 30.5 for Trump. That's a difference of 11.2% redder. Meanwhile, the entire country swung in the opposite direction by 6.2. So that's 6.2 away from the Dems, another 11.2 toward the Republicans, and that comes out to a total trend of 17.4 toward the Republicans. So that's how this works. Now we can quickly go through the rest of these states. Alaska swung bluer by 10.2. That was more than the 6.2 national swing. So that state did trend bluer by an even 4%. In Arizona, they trended bluer by 9.5%. Arkansas trended redder by 22.6. And now we've got a bunch of blue trends. We've got California at 17.5, Colorado 12.6, Connecticut 13.4, Delaware 20.9, even Florida, which was a lot redder in 1988. It trended bluer by 3.1, Georgia 11.9, and Hawaii 7.4. Idaho went in the other direction, 16.6 toward the Republicans. Illinois had a moderate blue trend of 6.8. Indiana did swing 1.2 toward the Dems, but that was way less than the 6.2% national swing, so it still trended redder by an even 5. Iowa had a significant GOP trend at 29.6. Kansas about a third of that at 9.2. Kentucky a big 25.2, and Louisiana an even 18. A few more blue trends now. We've got Maine at 12.1. Maryland, which actually went red in 1988, they trended bluer by a big 25.2. Massachusetts at 11.2. And Michigan, tiny blue trend at 0.3%. Minnesota, which went blue both times, trended redder by an even 7.9. Mississippi, a little less than that at 8.3. Missouri, again, same direction at 20.7. Montana, similar at 20.2. And Nebraska also at 5.8. Now we've got more trends toward the Dems. We've got Nevada, that's at 11.7. New Hampshire, a substantial 22.9. New Jersey, 13.3. New Mexico, a milder 4.8. New York, even milder at 2.2. And North Carolina, a little more moderate at 6.9. North Dakota had a huge lurch toward the right at 29.7. Ohio was in the same direction, but by a milder 6.4. Oklahoma back up there at 23.9. Oregon went back toward the Dems at 3.4. Pennsylvania was redder at 5.6. Rhode Island also redder at 4.2. South Carolina had the smallest trend out of all the states. Its swing of 6.1 was almost perfectly in line with the national swing. So that means it trended just 0.1% redder. South Dakota is back up there, way redder at 29. Tennessee, we've got at 19.6. Texas is at 7.3. Utah's in the other direction at 6.7. In Vermont, they had the biggest blue trend out of all the states. It's at 28.8. Virginia, a little less than that at 20. Washington, about half that at 10.4. Now we've got the biggest trend overall out of all the states. That's in West Virginia. It voted for Dukakis in 88. And since then, it trended toward the Republicans by a massive 52.8. Wisconsin also double digits redder at 10.7. And Wyoming is between the two at 29.5. Finally, we've got Washington, D.C. on here. They trended bluer by 9.2. So those are all of the states and all of the shifts. If you want to help visualize this data, we can take it all. We'll put it on a map. Let's take a look at it. We've got similar shading. The darkest colors are 10 or more points. This time, the very lightest colors are going to be under 1% trends. Those are just going to be Michigan and South Carolina. So what are the takeaways from any of these trends? Well, both of them were won by Republicans. Bush in 88 was a pretty big landslide. He was the VP under Reagan, and he secured a third consecutive term for the Republicans. Trump's win in 24, although relatively impressive, it's much less so than Bush's in 88. So with the whole country moving over 6% toward the Dems, if your state could not keep up with that 6%, maybe even moving in that direction, but only by 2 or 3 points, you're going to see a red trend down here. If you look at it in terms of the current electoral votes, at the top, you could see states that favor the Dems total 315. The Republicans a little bit behind at 223. So the more populated states got a little bit bluer. That does include Florida. It's pretty red today, but it actually was redder back in 88. So those 30 electoral votes are shaded in blue. But back in 88, it was a completely different political landscape. Bush won 40 states, including extremely blue states like Maryland and California. So some redder states today did go in the other direction, like Utah and Florida. Then you've got bluer states that got redder, like Minnesota and Rhode Island. And then you've got the swing states. Nevada got a lot bluer. Georgia was also in that direction, similar with North Carolina and Arizona. But then we've got the 3 Rust Belt states. In 88, the only one of them that went blue was Wisconsin. It was close, but that one actually trended the reddest of the 3. Michigan, which already went red in 88, they trended bluer just barely more than the nation by less than a half a point. Pennsylvania was kind of between the two, but it trended redder by about 5.5. There's other things you could point out on here. Some of them were significant, like New Hampshire. You've got Oregon and New York only in light blue. And you've got Kansas and Nebraska, which tend to come up as blue trending states, but on here they're red. Then you've got the usual bunch of other southern states that trended red. You've got Alaska that got bluer. There's a lot on here, but when you're spanning 3 or 4 decades of data, there's going to be a lot of different factors that go into these changes. Some states have had a lot of population growth or decline during that span. Some of the demographics have changed. Some of the issues have changed. Sometimes states have changed their political identities more than one time. Some of them have stayed roughly the same. Some of it's the candidates or the national environment. The specifics behind the changes might be more complex. But that's it for this video of the trends between 1988 and 2024. So let me know in the comments, what do you think about any of the trends in any of these states? Are you surprised to see Nevada and New Jersey dark blue? How about Iowa and West Virginia voting blue back in 88? What about Virginia, Texas, Illinois, or Washington? Let me know what you think down below on your way out. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Join if you'd like to help support the channel. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.